Chinese officials recently reacted to a wave of respiratory illnesses in Beijing by urging local residents to limit their movement and interactions. Now, earlier in the program, just a little while ago, I talked about the Biden administration's heavy hand on collusion with tech companies like Google to censor Americans' First Amendment rights when discussing the COVID pandemic. Well, obviously, 2024 is another election year, and the legacy media is more than happy to keep Americans in fear. And the left won't hesitate to capitalize on this. So with the likelihood that we could at least see another election time epidemic emerge as we get closer to November's elections, could we see a repeat of the hijinks, if you will, from 2020? Well, joining me now to discuss this is J. Christian Adams. He's the president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. J. Christian, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's, if we can, let's look at the big picture first. Well, first, it's amazing to me that we have viruses now that are so smart that they appear every election cycle. But kind of that aside, how much of a repeat of the 2020 could we see from the left as a spike in this new respiratory illness seems to be showing its head right now in China?
Let's rehash 2020. They used COVID as a reason to break down all of the safeguards, all of the guardrails we had in place for our elections, like witness signature verification on absentee ballots, voting in person, which is safer than voting by mail. All of these safeguards we had were broken down because of COVID. I was in court listening to judges signing orders, signing off on dissolving the laws. Can they do it again in 2024? I don't think so, because first of all, there's lots of folks out there like the Public Interest Legal Foundation and other groups that are very ready to intervene in these cases, to fight back, to not make the same mistakes that conservatives made 4 years ago and get caught flat-footed, which is what happened. So I think a lot of also improvements have been made at the state level as far as the election process goes. New state laws are in place. So I'm optimistic, guardedly optimistic, that it won't happen again.
I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to hear that, because we still hear a lot of naysayers, and rightfully so to some extent. People have lost some confidence in the election process, but as we're moving into this upcoming election, it is critical for people to have the confidence that their votes are going to count. And you just expressed great optimism and confidence that you have due to new laws and more eyeballs, more feet on the ground to make sure that we have election integrity. Let me ask you this, because one of the issues, one of the areas of chaos caused by the 2020 that came about was the number of days after Election Day that it took for results to come in. And when that happens, of course, people lose confidence. What's your take on that?
It's a bad problem, Jody. For example, in Florida, we knew who won on election night because they have a variety of things that are in place. We did a whole report on why Florida went from worst to first. They were worst in 2000. Now they're first in 2020. But there's other states that count ballots for weeks. And in some places, like North Dakota, where our organization is suing in North Dakota to stop the collection of ballots for 2 weeks. In previous North Dakota elections, the ballots came in even without postmarks. Now, you might say, why North Dakota doesn't matter? Look, there's a federal law in place. The federal law says election day, and we're trying to find what that means in the courts. And North Dakota has one of the most extreme multi-week periods to collect ballots after the election. So we brought a federal lawsuit in North Dakota. Other groups have tried in other places like Illinois. We're trying to get some clarity, because I think that endless elections are corrosive to confidence in the system, and that's why there has to be clarity on what does election day mean. It shouldn't mean election day and then 2 extra periods of overtime.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree with you more. When we have these prolonged elections with uncertainty as to the results and the outcomes, that does undermine confidence of the voters and the entire electoral system. And it's corrosive to our entire nation and our election process. Listen, I wish we had more time to go over more and more of this. Give me your last thoughts, if you would, about this upcoming election. What can people do to be more engaged and to be a part of the solution?
Well, of course, the best thing anybody could do is become a poll official. Counties everywhere around the country need people to serve as poll officials. It's no fun. It's all day. It's kind of like sitting in a deer stand from, sunrise to sunset. And, sometimes it's not easy. But if you are an election official, you can volunteer to do it. Sometimes you get paid. You will learn about the process and you'll help safeguard the process.
Thank you so much, Jay. Christian Adams, president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. This is a fascinating topic and one that we have to stay on top of, both from what's coming, but also from our involvement. We must secure election integrity. Thank you so much for the role that you are doing with that, and thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me.